The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
This is News Talk.
Yeah, you're welcome along. So busy this evening. Mick Foley of the Sunday Times will join us this hour. There is continued strife behind the scenes in Clare hurling. It kicked off again last night at a county board meeting. And also it seems the Clare and Wexford camps are both now saying the HSE have taken their respective sides in the disagreement over why two Clare players had to self-isolate after their match. So Mick's going to join us this hour. After 8 we have author Roland Lazenby on the high point of the Michael Jordan Bulls era. 25 years ago they broke the long-standing most wins in a regular season record. Then on the football show, the BBC's Andy West will join us. Atletico League champions in Spain, plus Dan McDonnell with us from 9. 53106, the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, evening.
Hey, Joe.
And very happy to say Dave McIntyre joins us. Dave, hello.
Hi, lads. How are you?
Very well. This, Richie, is how you know Dave McIntyre is a commentator to his core. So in the midst of events at Kiowa Island on Sunday evening, as Phil Mickelson was creating history. I mean, if you're into your golf, Dave is into his golf. This was good stuff, you know. Dave McIntyre in touch to bemoan the differing pronunciations of Louis Westhuizen's name from the various commentators. Would they not have got together, wondered Dave, and agreed on the correct pronunciation? I'm not saying this ruined his evening's golf, but it certainly got to him in a big way.
Oh, it did. No, I'd imagine it absolutely did, because you know Dave is known as being generally a pretty shy and retiring figure who's not afraid to share his opinion. But yeah, have we got a definitive Westhuizen, Oosthuizen, Oosthuizen?
I don't know.
What actually is it, Dave?
There is a definitive pronunciation of the guy's name, and if anybody wants any clarification, put his name alongside Ping, his manufacturer, certainly used to be his manufacturer, into YouTube. There's about a 45-second ad. He talks about the two names on his bag, one being Ping, the other being Westhuizen, and at the very end he says, "It's Westhuizen, by the way." So there you go. I plugged it into YouTube about 10 years ago because I was pretty sure everyone was getting the pronunciation of his name wrong. But getting it wrong is one thing, but when you've got three different guys in the same commentary team pronouncing it differently within the same sequence of shots, at least all get it right or all get it wrong. Come on, lads. For example, if Andrew Coulthard stands up and says Oosthuizen, followed by Ewan Murray who says Oosthuizen, and then Paul McGinley stands up 4 seconds later and says Westhuizen, they're all saying it differently. Surely a producer at some stage will say, guys, I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is, but at least if we all say it the same, it'll give it some semblance of credibility.
We've got to watch a round of golf together some night in the TV. I want to be around this.
This is what you should add for the gold tier on Patreon, Joe, is get Dave to commentate off tube for like the last round, but let him be full Dave McIntyre, the one that doesn't get to stretch his legs on Virgin Media for Champions League coverage, the one who can kind of F and Jeff a little bit more and give out about these little things.
Listen, the man's a pro. He wants a certain standard in his broadcasting. I applaud that. He's dead right. So, come here. I haven't talked to you about it. It was obviously insane. I'm sure you've seen the now leaked, I guess this is leaked video of Brooks Koepka. So, if you haven't seen this, Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau for a long time do not like each other. I think it's more Brooks really doesn't like Bryson. And so, you know, I guess if someone doesn't like you after a while, you're not going to like them much back. So, picture the scene. Koepka's doing an interview with Todd Lewis of the Golf Channel. And you see, you won't see this if you're just listening on the radio, but there's something over away to Koepka's right that's bothering him. And it turns out to be DeChambeau. We don't know what that is yet, but he rolls his eyes as just, you know, as even like DeChambeau's mere presence, just his mere existence is hurting him. But then anyway, the interview starts. He does the interview. DeChambeau walks behind Bryson and, well, it's fair to say he loses his train of thought. Well, I'm glad you don't even care, Brooks, because it was well and truly leaked in double quick time. Dave, the disdain is outrageous.
Oh, absolute revulsion at the mere existence of that man on this green planet Earth that we inhabit. I just think this is magical. I think there's a real element of childishness to Brooks Koepka's demeanour a lot of the time, and I hope he's not overly criticised for it, because I think it adds something to the game. It's this faux indifference to the world of golf itself. There's times where he almost goes overboard in his attempts to convince us of how little this really means to him, and you know, I could take or leave these majors and I could take or leave the regular tour events, and I don't really care who says what about me. And There aren't enough guys like Brooks Koepka that will just say what he wants to say. I mean, give me one other pro in that exact position where someone he has no real like for walks past him, and just to lose complete control of yourself and start effing and blinding. I can't think of a single sports person in any sphere of sport, let alone golf specifically, that would do what he did there, and I absolutely love it.
It's just the extent to which he just can't stand the sight of him initially is incredible. It's like revulsion is the word. It's like, I can't even deal with you near me. There's a Ryder Cup coming up, which will be interesting. I mean, if you don't pair them together, you're just not giving us what we want.
I would say this is the problem, Joe. There's a real flaw in the marketing makeup into the mindset of the guys of the PGA Tour. They really should be pushing this front and centre. Somebody today should have been thinking, right, whatever memo we need to get written, find out when these two are in the same field together. I don't know if they're playing this week or next week, or whether we should wait 3 weeks to Torrey Pines for the US Open. But whenever they're playing next, get them paired together and make sure it's in prime TV slot, because we'll get 2 days out of it. Do it on Thursday and Friday. But the PGA Tour operate off the premise that all of these guys are class acts. They're all upstanding, genuine, God-fearing individuals that wouldn't say boo to a goose. This does not suit the PGA Tour's image, and I would be amazed if these guys were paired together at Torrey Pines. But 2 US Open champions, one current, one former, what more excuse do you need? The US Open and the USGA are always putting these guys into the same groups, pairing them off. I mean, wasn't there a few years ago where Shane Lowry felt angry that he was in the Rotund group? He felt he was being disrespected because 3 of the heavier set guys in the field, in his eyes, were being played together. The USGA do this all the time. Put the 2 boys in together, please. It's going to be box office.
Yeah, I mean, they're not drawn out of a hat. They do just pick the groups. They're not going to do it. Totally agree with you. It's everyone's a great guy. Everyone gets on tour. So we just need them to be paired in a final pairing or second final pairing on a Sunday of a major, and just to enjoy all that. Speaking
of both playing the Open, by the way, can the R&A do it?
Yeah, but they won't do it. They won't do it either.
Can, yeah.
They won't do it either. They won't do it either. I mean, the players would just be so upset with them, and you could see from their point of view, like, trying to win a major here. Are you giving me this massive distraction? Like, thanks very much for nothing. It would just be amazingly intriguing to watch. What about Phil, Dave? Was there a tear?
I don't think it was a tear or a lump in my throat, but it was magic. Absolutely magic. And the fact that he led or was in and around the lead from day one, it meant, I think it was the first time. Now, it does help that it was on the East Coast, but I think it was the first time I've stayed up to the final shot of all 4 days of a major championship, and probably since long before my children were born. I just haven't had the stamina over the last 5 or 6 years to be able to, stick with it right to the end. But when Phil was near the leaderboard or at the top of it, I was not missing anything. I loved every second of it. I think I tweeted something to this effect on Sunday night. I mean, if you told me that Keogh Island was going to stage every PGA Championship from here on, much like Augusta stages the Masters, I would not be upset by that. I think it was an incredible stage. Phil Mickelson just transcended the event. His ability to find a fairway, it was like it had been injected into him a couple of days before the tournament, because that is not who he is. I mean, when he was at the 14th, 16th, maybe, when he outdrove Koepka, who smashed it, like those moments, the chip in, the shot on 18, the way they lost control of the crowds. It was just one of the best 4 days of golf I've ever watched. Magic.
They have now apologised to Mickelson and Koepka for the crowds. The USPGA have come out and apologised to both of them.
Yeah, I felt even a little uneasy watching it. And I don't know whether that's because I was genuinely uneasy or because we have been shielded for so long from that sort of a scene, and we have all systematically gone about our business to avoid crowds of any description for the last 13 months, that it was a bit jarring just to see it. And maybe that's what it was always like, but I think it went a bit beyond from what we've seen in the past. And I don't think the security at this golf course were primed for what was going to happen. They probably should have been, but maybe given that it's so long since we've seen those situations arise, you could forgive them that.
Yeah. You were coming in there, Rich?
Yeah, I think it's the latter in terms of crowds, because I know the crowds essentially aren't at capacity of what they would have been, and they were going a bit OTT in terms of their proximity to the players. But just generally, if you look back on, there was a clip popped up the other day of Dunphy, Giles and Billow after the Alan McLaughlin goal. Like, and the three of them are sitting so close together, and I think that was the first comment underneath was, God, Jesus, look at them sitting so close together in the studio. And I was even in town today with the shops open for the first time since Christmas, and it's just very odd to be in a place where there's loads of people that close by that you just feel a little bit uneasy. So I think that would play into how people viewed those scenes on Sunday night at Kiowa Island, because just being around people is just so odd now at this stage, and being around that size of a group of people as well is just so alien.
Yeah, you could be right. Definitely looking back at old punditry clips, which I often do on YouTube. I mean, the algorithm knows exactly how to push my buttons. It's like, we're keeping you here for the next hour, sorry. One of my primary thoughts now of late is, why did we all sit so close together when I'm watching it? Like, we're just on top of each other. I guess we'll switch back, but it's amazing. Or maybe we've internalised this, I don't know. Because I don't remember when Woods in 2019 in Atlanta, Dave, when the crowd all came around him, I don't remember feeling uneasy about that at all. And really, it wasn't that dissimilar to Sunday night. The slight difference was someone did kind of grab out of Mickelson at one point, and that's not great. But even before that happened, I was thinking, oh, this feels a bit claustrophobic. Whereas I definitely didn't think that when Woods walked up the 18th fairway in Atlanta with McIlroy alongside him. McIlroy had disappeared into the crowd. I think could actually be a touch of COVID internalisation on all our part.
Yeah, that probably is it. The crowds on the East Coast tend to be a little more boisterous than those anywhere else in the world, even in comparison to maybe crowds that you might find in the Midwest or on the West Coast. And obviously they'd been there in the sun on the ocean course all day, and they'd been well fueled and imbibing plenty over the course of the day. So they didn't need a second invitation to kind of let loose. At one stage, didn't one of them pick Mickelson's ball up? I mean, there's all kind of stupid involved in sport, but that takes the biscuit.
That happens at tournaments all the time. Yeah, it happens at tournaments all the time. It does. People are like, oh, a ball. They pick it up. It does. It happens all the time, honestly.
Who are these people?
Well,
yeah, look, maybe we've become so used to avoiding each other that when we actually see a crowd scene like that, it's a bit jarring.
I know. Going to be interesting to see how quickly we all switch back when we're given the total green light. We should get on with the news round. It is on Off the Ball on News Talk, with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. And speaking of crowds, Richie?
Yeah, crowds will be back inside GAA grounds this weekend for the first time since March of last year. The GAA has confirmed that matches played in the 6 counties will be allowed to have 500 supporters present. The move is in line with the easing of restrictions by the Northern Ireland Executive. It means Saturday's Division 1 North meetings of Armagh and Donegal and Tyrone and Monaghan will have fans present, as will the Division 3 North matchup of Fermanagh and Longford, and Sunday's Division 1 clash of Antrim, Division 4 clash, of Antrim and Leitrim.
Very good. Now, this Clare versus Wexford close contacts business is heating up.
Good stuff. The GAA has provisionally rearranged the Allianz Hurling League meeting of Kilkenny and Wexford for this Sunday, provided everyone's fit and healthy to play the game. The game, originally due to take place last weekend, was postponed after a number of the Wexford panel tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, Clare GAA have given their full backing to hurling manager Brian Lowen in a war of words with Wexford. After Sunday's Allianz League win over Laois, he claimed Wexford had nominated 2 members of his panel as close contacts of the model county players who tested positive for coronavirus. Wexford called that claim outrageous and sought a retraction, but Clare are standing by their manager, saying HSE guidance on the close contacts was informed by discussions with Wexford. They say the identifying of close contacts came after a conversation between Wexford and the HSE, with one player identified by the colour of their helmet.
Dave, this is really interesting for, well, I guess a few reasons. I mean, just the kind of tittle-tattle drama aspect of it catches the eye, but the first being that they're both citing the HSE, so they can't both be right here. Initially, Brian Lowen, Clare manager on Sunday, was saying, look, we're really disappointed that Wexford players talked to the HSE and pointed to 2 of our players. Wexford, as Richie says, the chairman, not happy with that, said Wexford GAA, we've spoken to HSE South East this morning and the position can be independently verified by the HSE. We did absolutely not in no way nominate Clare players. And then Fergal McGill of Croke Park came out and backed up Wexford. He was saying, the decision was with the HSE Midwest. They'd be the one to designate close contacts. It had nothing to do with Wexford. So Clare have come out fighting today, and they said Brian Lowen has been in touch with the HSE, that the 2 players identified were absolutely on foot of discussions between the contact tracing team of the HSE and the Wexford players. The HSE confirmed one of the players was identified, as Richie says, by the colour of his helmet. So the 2 players had to go and self-isolate for 10 days. So, I mean, get Paul Reid on the show, which is at HSE. So there's that, which is interesting, but maybe more pertinently, I was under the impression that you couldn't be deemed a close contact by being on the same pitch, that you could be a casual contact, sure, but close contact, no. So that's kind of an interesting development.
That's certainly the impression I was under as well. And we know there was a study done that showed the risk associated with outdoor activities is negligible and almost zero. There have been absolutely so few documented cases of people contracting the virus when they were operating outdoors. I'd have a number of questions on this. If Wexford didn't, as they say, nominate these two players, how did the HSE go about it? Was there footage watched of the game? And so these guys were confirmed as being close contacts. How could two opposition... Sorry, go on.
Well, just on that point, Anthony Daly in the Irish Examiner was saying, he was talking, I saw Wexford players gathered in a tight huddle. At the last water break, Davy Fitzgerald gathered all of his players around him in a circle to issue instructions. One of the Wexford players who tested positive was in that huddle. So if the guys right beside him weren't considered close contacts, how in the name of God was the Clare fella he was marking deemed a close contact?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that. I mean, how could two opposition players be deemed close contacts? None of the Wexford players. There was at least one huddle. Was there a bus? Was there a dressing room? Were they staying together in a hotel prior to the game? Did they eat together? Did two of them ever find themselves going to the bathroom at the same time? And yet two guys out in the open air sprinting around the place can be deemed a close contact. And I'm going to take this one step further. And this is a little bit of almost of a conspiracy theory. And look, this is highly unlikely to occur.
That's good, because we haven't had enough of that in the last year and a half. So by all means.
I mean, this is just a league game, which doesn't have huge repercussions for the season as a whole. But fast forward 3 or 4 months and how we would feel about this situation if a player misses an All-Ireland final because of it. Yeah. Let's say the final is drawn and there's a replay a week later. Two guys in this situation would not be able to line out for Clare. Wexford obviously would lose 3 guys. Well, if there was 3, it might be postponed, but you get my drift, that they might lose a couple of guys to a positive test. But could a really cynical team, whoever this might be, in any code, just nominate the opposition's 2 best players and say, I spent a bit of time with him in the pitch, or whatever the case may be, have these guys deemed close contacts and potentially have to self-isolate for 10 days. I know I've really stretched the parameters of imagination there, but it's just something that occurred to me on the back of reading Anthony Daly's article today. It
occurred to a lot of people, I think, to be honest. It's not even that outlandish. I mean, I had wondered, because this casual versus close contact issue will really need to be cleared up now. If you can be a close contact on the pitch, even though there's virtually no instances of transmission on a pitch. There was a study, Sunday Times, a couple of weeks ago, in rugby, in soccer, in American football. They've done detailed tracing, nothing on a pitch. So now suddenly close contacts are a thing. This is news to me. So there's that for sure. But I suppose the other point to make, have I completely lost the train of my thought? Oh,
did Bryson just walk past?
Just walk by.
He really did. He really did. It was a point worth making as well. I think it's going to... Oh, yes, sorry. I had wondered, for instance, if... maybe opposition players here are just mates and they jumped in the car afterwards for a catch-up. But the fact that Lohan is saying, they were identified courtesy of the colour of the helmet they were wearing suggests that wasn't the case, that this did very much happen on the pitch. So I'm at a loss. That was the other theory I had, was that maybe they went for a few beers or something in a house after the game. But so I don't know. It's very strange. Mick Foley will join us this hour. Rich, do you want to rattle through a few more stories there?
Yeah, the Republic of Ireland's friendly with Andorra has changed venue. Originally slated for Barcelona, next month's game will instead take place in the Principalities National Stadium. Travel restrictions for Andorra have been eased, allowing the game to take place there. That happens on June 3rd before a trip to Budapest to play Hungary just 5 days later. Sevilla midfielder Ryan Johansson and Getafe's John Patrick have been called into the Republic of Ireland under-21 squad, both for the first time. Johansson only received clearance to continue his Ireland career last week. Jim Crawford's named a squad of 26 for friendlies with Switzerland, Australia and Denmark, all of which will be played in Spain. And the manager was asked what he wants to see from his newcomers this week.
Just come in and enjoy it. And there's no doubt they will. They'll come in, they'll enjoy the training sessions for sure. They'll enjoy the team meetings. But as well as that, the group that's already there, that's been here before, are a smashing bunch of players. They're good people, good values. And for the 7 coming in, it'd be seamless for them to integrate into the group. That's for sure. But I'm looking forward to seeing them up close and personal on the grass, see what they're about, because you know, you get a certain amount of information from